You believe you're under investigation right now by the Biden DOJ prior to going to Russia, that this was an investigation open, a grand jury investigation opened looking into something about you back in 2020?
Correct. It's been sitting there. And I thought maybe it was over. And it wasn't until I was on this trip that I was informed, when I got more educated about all of this, that no, that it could be that could be activated at any time. And there was also some other things that went on. When I made my decision, as you know, Megyn, because you've known me over the years and you know I'm pretty methodical. I'm not impulsive. I make decisions based on analysis and data points. And I looked at the cases that are and the activity since the election's ramping up, as far as people making threats, all of that thing. And then those 2 warnings that I got. And then there was one more conversation that I had, which I know you want to get to, that put the seal on it, that I made my decision. And I decided to err on the side of caution and not get on that plane.
Can we talk about the 2 warnings? Because how did they find you? You're over there promoting a book, you give an interview to Channel 1. All media in Russia is basically state run. So you give this interview, and how did did people come to you personally? Did they call you? How did they reach out to you to say there may be danger of you being arrested?
They took great professional risk, and reached out through a friend. I did not know them directly, and gave me the message.
And may I ask if these are American citizens?
All American.
Okay, so former intel people from
Correct.
The American intelligence agencies.
Absolutely, yeah.
And were these people in Russia?
I can't.
Okay.
I can't say anything more.
No worries. Okay, and so they're saying, Tara, you might be arrested if you leave Russia. And what did they specifically mention for violating sanctions? Because we, as the audience probably knows, we have a bunch of sanctions on Russia right now because of the war in Ukraine. And your lawyer was pointing out this morning in her statement, Rada Sterling, one of your lawyers, was saying this would be basically a joke, because the sanctions that are in place right now against Russia would make it inappropriate for companies to advertise on these Russian television stations, to offer professional services to said channels, but do not include a ban on receiving a plane ticket. So did you feel that the sanction threat or the arrest threat was real?
Yes. And the sanction issue, we're still trying to sort through. And then I made several phone calls and nobody seemed to have the answer. And I called lawyers like in New York and DC that had federal backgrounds. And they literally said that some of these sanction laws are pages long. They're relatively new, Megyn, as you know, they're 2022, 2023. So some of them haven't even, really been enacted, or they haven't been, litigated in any way. They're just sitting there sort of. But in my case, I had accepted this plane ticket from Channel 1, and I was told that could be considered a violation. Now, what people need to understand is a violation of sanctions could lead to prison time. Like, it can lead to actually not just financial penalties, but actual prison.
So you've got that potential violation of sanctions, though, your lawyer says that's a bunch of BS. You're not a company advertising. You're a citizen going over with a plane ticket to give an interview.
Correct.
That's one piece of it. And then there's the possibility of some grand jury investigation, some DOJ action in connection with something else started back here in 2020. On that front, do you believe that the government suspected you of being a Russian agent, that investigation had anything to do with that?
Do you recall our conversation when we kind of talked about this?
Yes.
The first thing, the first thing that Joe Biden did when the New York Times called him, apparently, according to Lisa Lehrer, was she asked the campaign about me and about that. And their first response was to send them blogs and statements I made about Vladimir Putin and about Russia that were considered pro-Russia, and inferred that I was a Russian agent. And Edward Isaac Dovere, who worked for The Atlantic, did an article about me possibly being a Russian asset. So it was that wild connection. And you and I had even joked about that, right? On
Yeah.
your show because of how absurd it was. I was this girl who grew up in Wisconsin, lived, born in California, lived all my life in America. And then all of a sudden I'm, this Russian asset because I simply came forward about Joe Biden. But we were also in the thick of the whole Russiagate, which has now been proven to be all false,
Yeah.
and a narrative that's been overturned, by several outlets that those were outright lies, and now it's been proven in hearings in Congress. So I was sort of swept up in that.
Look, you did the tough thing during COVID. You paid your people and pulled your business through the pandemic. And now doing the tough thing could qualify you for up to $26,000 per employee at covidtaxrelief.org. Government funds are available to reward companies with 2 or more employees who stayed open during COVID. This is not a loan, and you don't have to pay it back. The program's complicated, but no one knows more about it than the CPAs and tax pros at covidtaxrelief.org. You pay nothing up front. They do all the work and share a percentage of the cash they get you. Businesses of all types, including nonprofits and churches, can qualify, even those who took PPP loans, and even if you had increases in your sales. You did the tough thing for your employees during COVID. Now let covidtaxrelief.org help get you up to $26,000 per employee. Visit covidtaxrelief.org, covidtaxrelief.org, covidtaxrelief.org. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.